And we are back. It's been a week. It's your boy Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, and my girl, the animal advocate extraordinaire. What's up, Valerie Heffron? I will tell them all about our show. This is Professionals and Animal Lovers Show. What's going on? I'll do the mission statement. I'll do the whole thing. First of all, how are you with your animal print this fine morning?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm just super excited. And I want to say this. This show has led us to incredible connections that are literally changing not just the lives of our animals, but also our own lives. And I'm just grateful to be here. And I have two of my heroes on, people I look up to, learn from, and tell everyone I can about these messages, this important information.
I love it. Look, we're changing the world. No big deal. Hashtag just changing the world. Here's what it's all about. It's all about continuing to build and nurture a community of animal lovers. The show started out about a year and a half ago, the Professionals and Animal Lovers Show, but now it turns into purposeful lunches. It's turning into a purposeful society of humans that are changing the world for the animals. That's what it's all about, because we understand that the bond between people who care about and love animals is incredibly strong. In my opinion, in our opinion, really, it mirrors that bond between a pet parent and their puppy. Like I know right now, because I got a brand new puppy named Cheeto, and he's downstairs, and he has talked about changing a family dynamic. My 4 kids and my wife and I adopted Cheeto just 2 weeks ago. It was 2 weeks ago yesterday. And this little bugger, I mean, he's hysterical. I was going to bring him up here, but I'm doing a lot of technical stuff. But I was going to bring him up here to the attic. So Connor, Anya met him, but didn't even know he was my dog when you met him. So I'll bring him out to the canine shop later on. Connor, one day I will let you meet little Cheeto. If I get a break today, maybe I'll bring him to the show. But that's what we're doing, is we're building this community. And he is downstairs just finishing up a raw breakfast not too long ago. Talk about raw food. Because look, Val talks about connections. We talk about relationships. I talk about we're just changing the world. No big deal. But it's all through relationships. We can do none of this without other people being part of our world. So many great stories. Val, ripple effect. Maybe we'll get into it today. So how do we want to start here, Valerie? Why don't you introduce Anya Tucker? Anya can then tell us how she connected us to Conor Brady, and then we're going to talk raw food, because real dogs eat raw. Take it away, Val.
Wow. Okay. I need some more coffee to follow that one.
Let's go. Let's go. I have plenty. Look at all this. Right. Get your caffeine into your body. What am I telling you? Go ahead.
So, number one, I just want to say that the reason we're building this community is because we believe that we naturally want to support one another in business, in rescue, and in animal advocacy, so that everyone wins. Tommy.
Especially the animals, and especially
yes.
Tommy. Okay. Especially the animals.
So part of that, of course, is education, right? So in order to really understand what's best for our animals, we have to rely on experts. We're happy and proud and humbled to bring to you 2 incredible experts in this field of diet and nutrition, and what we refer to as species appropriate diet. So we have Anya Tucker of the Canine Shop, which started off as a small entity out of a garage, has blown up in a few short years in Long Island, New York, and now is a franchise. You can pick one up nationally, although you can't have it in South Carolina and North Carolina because we have those rights unless you talk to us first. Thank you very much. And we have legend, revolutionary author, Dr. Conor Brady joins us from over the pond, into the woods, from Ireland. And he is the author of this life-changing book called Feeding Dogs. I think it's showing up backwards on the screen. Anyway, Dr. Conor Brady with 1 N, Feeding Dogs. Let's get into it. Guys, so happy to have you here. I'm going to start with a question from one of our fans. I think this is just a no-brainer, easy, kind of like, let's get into the conversation question. So thank you, Jenny Nielsen from New York. Oh gosh, sorry. So basically she wants to know, what truly is a raw diet? First question.
Anya, do you want to start off?
You know what? You can go.
Yeah, okay. I think like, listen, the word raw kind of tends to make people a little bit, they stand back and they think raw meat. Are you serious? Raw meat for a dog? And it's particularly terrifying for the veterinary industry, apparently, not the vets that are feeding it, but the vets that don't feed it. And so I think, yeah, so raw food, you can think about it like a fresh food, okay? And that term is much easier to get your head around, because to argue against the use of fresh food in any other animal on the planet would seem a bit ridiculous. I mean, your own kids, the animals in the zoo, farm animals compared to animals fed grain, show me an animal anywhere that's better off eating some industrial product made by a candy company. And so that's kind of the start of the conversation. So then it's easier to kind of say, yes, well, the meat is fresh when we are feeding it. And I find that is a little bit easier. So raw dog food essentially just means meat, an organ and bone, usually ground up, but usually by a factory. If you're buying it complete and made up to a certain standard, it coming out of a factory, that's what it looked like. It looked like very, very chunky sausage. It'll smell good, it'll look good, and your dogs will be apparently significantly healthier on it, if you're to believe the studies, which is a good way to go about things, So that's raw dog food. But a lot of people are doing DIY as well. They add in their own bits. They buy products from Anya, and then they add in their own bits and pieces from at home. They'll throw out blueberries into the garden. Sure, that's raw feeding. And giving your dog a chicken thigh, that's raw feeding. Cracking an egg on top of kibble, sure, is not raw feeding. So it's so versatile. It's to use the word raw, it doesn't do it justice really. It's just feeding normal food. There's no more magic than that. What do you think, Anya?
Yes, I definitely agree. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, perfect. I definitely agree. I started this a long time ago, and before I started feeding raw, my brother flat out scared me. He said, salmonella, the dangers, don't do it. You're going to hurt your dog. So I took a step back at first, but then it just didn't seem right at all. Like, how is it possible that in nature, it would be so dangerous to do something so natural?
Yeah.
I'm like, there's no possible way, there's no way that humans need to get their hands onto food and do things to it, which we know that nothing good, in order for it to be healthy for a dog, a cat, an animal to eat. So then I ignored him, started doing my own research. And obviously I found out that he's very wrong. These animals can definitely handle anything that comes their way like that. So I've been doing this for quite a while. Again, I started off in my garage with one little freezer just to help the neighborhood dogs get healthy. And paired up with a company that, we trust and love and are very open and transparent. I know that's the new word, being transparent, but it is very important. And, all these dogs that came in and started buying from me that had problems, their problems started going away. They looked healthy, they felt healthy, and people see this. So on the dog walks, people would say, why is your dog looking so good, feeling better? All those spots are gone and the bumps, and, your dog is like, just doing so much better. So it snowballed into what we have. We opened up one store. It did well. We moved, got it bigger, opened up another store. And then now, you're getting a franchise. But our whole thing, the reason why this is working is because we educate everyone that walks in the door. Everyone, every customer that comes in that wants to learn, learns and comes back with more questions and learns some more. My staff, well, let me
show the book.
We have a training manual. I have a test. The test isn't for me to test them, it's for them to test themselves on what they still need to learn, what they need to brush up on. So, we're very serious, and we don't teach on opinions. If I ever tell a customer an opinion, I flat out say, this is my opinion. It is not a fact, because we only teach and share information that are facts. So then I learned about Dr. Conor Brady's book from a raw feeding site in Canada. And they suggested it. One of the owners of the group suggested it. And when I read it, I was blown away, because there are a lot of books out there, and nothing at all is like this. So this is how our book looks
Lovely.
in our canine shop. And because my employees just, like every day, researching, learning, reminding themselves, sharing. I love that they look like this in my store.
Yeah, no, it shows that it's getting some good mileage on it. And, I want to say, look, Dr. Conor, can I call you, what am I calling you? Conor,
Connor,
Dr.
please.
Conor,
Connor, yeah.
okay. One of the most pivotal moments where, I mean, I'm not even kidding you. I put your book down in the middle of reading it and probably called 10 of my animal pet parent friends, right? Page 151. I know this by heart. I was telling people when I was in New York and I was in the canine shop and I would talk to customers and all of that. I was like, page 151, page 151, because I already knew in my head that pet food, from the large companies have things like antibiotics, preservatives, things like that. I almost fell off my chair when I read that there are rendered animals, euthanized animals, like dogs and cats from animal shelters, make it into the pet food. And you know what else is really scary? I called up a friend of mine, John DiLeonardo. He's a big animal advocate. He was not in the least surprised. He was like, oh yeah. And I'm like, what are we feeding our animals? So, I mean, Dr. Conor, I have to ask you, like, your research is impeccable. How did you find all this out? I'm assuming these rendering plants don't just open the doors and let you in, right? Like, how did you even get all this information?
Yeah, like, when you get into this kind of dark world, it's interesting. Like when Anya said she talks to her brother and the brother scares you, and you believe the fear initially, but then you peek behind the curtain a little bit and you see the mighty Oz kind of peddling the machine, and you realize, oh, this isn't scary at all. This is just nonsense. And then once you see it, the whole thing just collapses then, and it's not scary at all. So it's the same with this. When you read somebody's book, I think it was Anne Martin's book, Food Pets Die For. She was one of the first people to highlight it to me. I'm reading through the book and she's talking about, dogs eating dogs, essentially. And I'm thinking, no way, it couldn't be. And so you start looking. So I would go to the literature, they'd say it. So I'd go to Google Scholar would start me off. I wouldn't be a massive supporter of Google, but I'd go to Google Scholar just to get an idea. And you type in SPB, which is the chemical used to euthanize cats and dogs. The industry that's selling all this junk food will tell you that they also use it to euthanize cattle. Yeah, not many. Cow, maybe. Cows are killed with bolt guns because it's cheaper. So you don't use gallons of SPB to kill a cow, believe me. Maybe the odd horse or cow, but very, very rare. It's all cats and dogs. So when you start looking in academia and you look through the papers, you go to the Wall Street Journal, go to those sort of places, and you see that one of the stats that leapt out from the start was in the 80s, 40% of the cats and dogs in LA were going to the rendering plants, 40%. And about 5 years later, the FDA were tasked. There's an announcement on the FDA page. I can link to it at fda.org. And it said that a number of vets were complaining that SPB wasn't working as well as they thought anymore. And they'd like to look into why they had to use more and more on cats and dogs at the time, which is a staggering revelation of potentially how much SPB was being used. Now, people will say that was the 80s and 90s. Things have changed now, but they haven't. 2 out of 5 of the rendering plants, massive corporations in the US, still take cats and dogs, roadkill, leftover restaurant grease. So after the restaurants have processed the hell out of this restaurant grease, it is highly inflammatory, highly the nasty stuff. KFC have been using going for it. They then send that to the rendering plant and you stew it up and you make your soap and jellies and pet food out of it. And it's like, what?
It is so concerning and alarming, especially because we all love our animals. We read, the packaging of these products is incredible. It's like, high in nutrition, longevity, they have all of these different labels that make it very appealing. But when you think about it, like I've seen movies about food for us, for humans, Food Inc., Forks Over Knives, etc., and they go into the plants and they show you what's actually being processed into our food, knowing that the quality and the grade is lower than that for what we're giving our animals, it just all blows me away. It really does.
So let me, just because you might have had that conversation with our friend John DiLeonardo as well from Humane Long Island, but you also had that conversation with me when you told me about this.
Yeah.
And I was like, Yeah, of course. With the conversation with regards to that there's garbage and junk and pesticide, I'm sorry, euthanization drugs and, in the,
Pesticides
of
too, yeah.
course, I go, of course there is. Because guess what? They don't give a shit what they put in human bodies. Okay, so let's be honest. And I
Right.
never curse on any of these shows, but they don't care. So like when you talk Food Inc., Forks Over Knives, whatever, the point of the matter is I can drive up and down Main Street anywhere USA or anywhere in Ireland for Dr. Brady. But point of the matter is they're just selling us junk that we can put in our bodies that has zero nutritional value. So I know you see the world differently than I do, but like I think most people are full of it anyway. So the thing is, and again, I like people, so that's funny, but like I don't trust many people. So the point of the matter is it's capitalism, and it's a situation where they
Yeah.
throw this stuff in a box and they sell it. I want to make a point about a couple things. I want to make a point that we adopted this dog a couple weeks ago, Cheeto, and I knew there was no way we could do anything but figure out how to serve this. I was going to say this young boy, this 10-week-old little boy, anything but raw food and a raw food diet. So I text my friends Anya and Rob. I'm like, look, we got this dog. I said, don't tell Valerie. I'm not introducing her to the dog. This is Sunday. I said, don't tell Val. I'm introducing her to the dog live on the show tomorrow. But he's moving into our house this evening on a Sunday. And talk about education. So I'm going there with my wife. My wife's like, Tommy, look, I'm in. I understand what you're saying, but I don't want to start. I don't want the house to stink like, like remember Alpo? You open up because I'm talking raw food, right? And if you don't have a paradigm, a frame of reference of what we're actually talking about, you might think a can of Alpo, we open it up and it's like slop and gravy, and you dump that in, and it sits in the bowl all day long, and it just stinks to high heaven all day. That is not, ladies and gentlemen, what we're talking about. So Anya spent 45 minutes, maybe an hour, explaining to my wife the nuance of what this is. So you talk about education. I don't own a franchise of the canine shop. I'm not the owner of the canine shop. I'm just a new recent dog owner who got a strong education, and my wife got an education. I will tell you this, we got a bag full of chicken hands, which maybe we could get into, which is kind of looks like there was like we lopped off alien hands and they're in a bag in the freezer. But the idea of it is this is what they're naturally supposed to be eating. If we go back, dogs didn't come from anywhere but wolves, right? These are domesticated animals that are used to eating meat. So I go to Dr. Brady's website, which if you're listening, folks, it's dogsfirst.ie, dogsfirst.ie. We'll share that out on Facebook. But if you go to that website, one of the first photographs I saw was this dog right here. Actually, why don't I just share this for those of you listening in on Facebook or watching it on Facebook? It's it's a dog just chowing down on a bunch of steak, right? I mean, Dr. Brady, maybe you could speak to that photo, but it says on the bottom of that photo, it says, when a dog is changed from dry food diet to a fresh species appropriate diet, you can expect a number of physical changes to quickly occur. The first physical change is their coat will be better. Why? Because they're eating what they're supposed to be eating. They're not eating some crap that was put in a box. Talk about, cereal. It's like that. We don't feed our kids cereal if we want them to get nutrition. We shouldn't feed our dogs the crap that goes into a box. Am I making enemies? Maybe, but it is what it is. We're trying to change the world here. So you got to make some enemies. So you see,
Like Anya said, it just makes so much sense. I mean, you wouldn't try to convert a great white shark to eat lettuce, right? Or, something that's not.
no, because you know what? There's nothing worse than a wet salad. Nothing worse than a wet salad. I would not say you should. No, but the point, I get your point. It's what are they supposed to be eating? What did they eat before we got in the way, Dr.
Right.
Brady? It's probably only a generation or two that they've been eating this type of slop, in a can, or that the crap that I'm dealing with something right now, and I'm going to put it out there, Val. I got to make this point because I need education on this, and it's relevant to what we're talking about. When we adopted Cheeto, working title, although I think that's his name. He was named Cheeto by the vet. So when we adopted Cheeto, we were given this bag of what I would say is it's dry food. So Anya, when I come out to the store later on, because I need to do food, like they had said, what we need to do, and I think you had said this would make sense too, is like wean him off of that dry food. So what we've been doing for the last 2 weeks is half of this chicken thing that I bought from you, the big old, I'll call it a log of what you probably called something nicer, but the big old log, and we kind of mix the two together. I want him off of that kibble stuff, that dry stuff. But in order so he didn't get sick, I'd like some insight because I'm not saying I know the answer here. So Dr. Brady,
And this is also relevant to the next question from one of our fans who submitted this question. How would a person best transition their pet to a raw diet?
yeah, perfect. Take it away.
Well, the way that I usually handle this when a new customer comes in, unless the dog has some severe health issues, which then, depending on what it is, we can discuss. I don't believe in a transition period like that.
Okay. Okay.
And again, it's worked this entire time, I've been doing this.
Yeah.
When the dog eats what they're supposed to eat, the body automatically says, well, oh, wow, I know what to do with this. And I know what to do with this. It knows how to handle everything. And like that is it. The only issue is maybe the first stool sometimes has like a mucusy look to it, not diarrhea. Yeah. And that could be the body trying to detox. I mean, there could be several reasons for that, but
well, that's it. So then, you know what? The advice didn't come from you. It came from somebody else in our life. So that's the idea. I got this bag that's downstairs is gone out the door. I'm coming to the canine shop later today because I got to reload. But Dr. Brady, jump in on that same piece there too. Transition. Maybe there ain't a transition. Maybe you deal with a little, we're going to see some things maybe we didn't want to see so much, right? And then everything's going to be back to normal, or as it should be.
I think that we did a survey of 400 raw feeders on the website, and it was 200 in the changed quickly group to raw food, and 200 a gradual changeover over the course of 4, 5, 6 meals. They increased it in the meal. So there was people in each camp, barking at each other through the fence, and so we checked it out, and it turned out that exactly 10% in each group experienced sickness in the dog. So 1 in 10 dogs, no matter which way you did it, had a little bit of digestive upset, maybe a little bit of a soft poo, maybe a little bit of a vomit. So, 1 in 10 in each group. So what that told me was it probably doesn't matter what way you do it. Right. I think that probably like Pavlov's dogs where you ring the bell and they salivate, I think there's probably a little bit of digestive conditioning that goes on. All that gurgling and squirting that you hear coming out of his tummy when he looks at the food, probably not a bowl of dry food, but certainly when the steak comes out of the fridge from Anya's shop, the dog's going to get very excited and you'll hear all those acids and enzymes. I think sometimes that is getting ready for the meal. And I kind of feel like, although I've no frame of reference for this whatsoever, I feel like that's all the acids and enzymes hitting the gut. And I feel like it's anticipating the meal it's going to get. So I think sometimes if a dog is dry fed, that sometimes if you change to raw and you get that little bit of film on the poo or whatever, it's a little shift. The gut flora has to completely change. You're going from essentially a vegetarian diet. Cereal-based dry food sold by vets is vegetarian pet food. There's no meat in it. 4% bone meal. So the stuff that we put on our plants is called bone meal. The pet industry calls that meat and bone meal, but it's bone meal because they send off bones to the rendering vat by the cats and dogs that have a bit of meat on them. So that's a bit mean. But so there's the 4% cow's toenail. If it says with chicken or with beef, that's as close to a vegetarian diet as you could possibly imagine. So I can see people getting up in arms about the new vegan diets for pets, and I say, guys, you've already been feeding vegan pet food to your dog. So I think when you come along and you choose a really good product from Anya's shop and it's full of meat, I do think that the gut is kind of like, whoa, it's a different acidity, it's a different gut flora, different enzymes. And so there can be a period, although most it just process it straight away, like Anya said, it's just the most natural thing ever. But sometimes there can be a little bit of a, woof, what's this? And we don't want the owner to kind of walk away and go, well, he regurgitated it, which is totally normal. Dogs are a regurgitating species. People think it's like vomiting for humans. It's kind of rare. You just see it outside clubs, but like it's quite a normal thing for a dog to do. And so if he's not quite ready for the food, he may regurgitate it, but he'd probably go back to it. So yeah, there's a little bit. I don't care which camp it is. I'm totally on a fence. People want to go quickly or not. But if the dog comes with digestive issues, I would tread a little bit more carefully because sometimes you have to just take a few tentative steps with those guys first.
So that's what goes on.
Say the proof is in the pooping. I really believe that. And I can honestly tell you, this is not a line. Once we transitioned our dog to raw food, it started with a bone marrow broth that we started making in our home, and we saw instant results. Like within a couple of weeks, he started running up and down the stairs again, and he had stopped doing that. But also, we were told by someone else who has been feeding raw for like 15 years that not only are the poops going to get better and consistently good, but that he's going to poop less. And they said it's because they're absorbing more of the food that they're taking in. And that's what I mean, all of a sudden I'm like very interested in poop, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's true. Like he's pooping less, they're perfect. And I think that's an important, signal, if you will. You did cover our question from Russell in Florida regarding the new vegan lines of food from pet companies. And I just want to dive in because I know this is a quick hour here, but can you, we'll start with Dr. Conor and we'll go to Anya, but can you guys talk about the predicaments, the ailments, the illnesses that raw food can help and you see results with? I would love, just, you want to rattle a few off. I know a few dogs I've seen people come in with their own success stories, but I want to hear from you guys. Like, what are some of the things that this diet can absolutely improve?
Yeah, like if you just start with the carbs bit, okay, so a high carb diet is what most people are feeding their dogs today. So it doesn't matter if it's wheat, corn, pea, sweet potato, it doesn't matter. High carbohydrate diets, and they're ultra processed. They are ready to be sugar in a heartbeat. Okay, so people think sugar is just granulated sugar you put in your coffee, but sugar is pasta, sugar is rice, sugar is potatoes. That starch is sugar to the body, so your body digests it very, very quickly, that starch, and it becomes sugar. So it doesn't matter if you take a spoon of sugar or you eat lots of pasta, either way you're going to spike your insulin. So we know that that is linked to obesity. And we've got 75% of cats and dogs are overweight, obese. We've got diabetes exploding, particularly in the cat population. We've got 2/3 of healthy cats and dogs with pancreatitis by mid-age, 2/3, as if Mother Nature made them wrong. And we've got cancer rates at about 5 to 10 times higher than we do in humans. We've got bloat and we've got epilepsy surging in cats and dogs. All those diseases, studies show, are aggravated by high carb diets and improve with higher protein diets, with lower carb diets. Jumping obese dogs to a higher protein diet, which is raw dog food, they have better body mass. Imagine going to the gym on 60% bread rolls and trying to get the perfect body form. Diabetes, which is maintained in keto. You've got cancer. If you've got cancer, you better stop eating carbs. Pancreatitis, we now know, is because of high carb diets and cured with the removal, chronic pancreatitis. So like all these diseases, every single one of them, and that's before we talk about dentition, like that 80% of dogs have gum disease by the time of 3 years of age, and a raw meaty bone fixes it in a week. And yet you should be putting out and getting a general anesthetic. You name the disease, and now we've got studies in nature.com, top nature science magazine in the world, showing that dry-fed dogs are more prone to gut enteropathy, which is gut disease. We've got studies showing that dry-fed dogs are more prone to atopy, which is skin disease. And we've got 2 big comparative studies of dry versus raw-fed dogs showing dry food is more inflammatory. So show me the study where dry food is better for you in any illness, The Mars Dermal Care products always an amazing, it's better for skin. All they did was compare 20 dogs on basic dry food that they make, and in the other 20 dogs, they put in a fish oil tablet. And what happens? The itchy dogs, when they get a fish oil tablet, they do a little bit better. Now you have Magic Dermal Care products. No offense, I just named the brand. That could have been any brand. I don't mean it, Mars. So like all you've done is compared one group that are deficient in omega-3 and put in omega-3 and helps the skin. And they can do that with absolutely any condition. There's not a single study out there, not one, that shows dry food of any fashion, high carb or protein, whatever you like to call it, is better than real pet food. Not one study. You would have thought the whole industry would have a raft of these studies to convince them, evidence-based scientists, that they are. Not a single one, only the opposite. So
let me ask this, because this was my first question. It was my first question when Rob Tucker came on this show a while back. It's my question to you all. Before I even say that, this is obviously about an educational situation, right? So we do 3 things on this show. I'm sure we do more things. I try to make people laugh too, but we learn, we educate, and then we advocate. And it's all about the education. I mean, I just got schooled 10 minutes ago on just this own transition period that we're working through with Cheeto. That's a change. That's a game changer. That's one takeaway from here. But the question really is, okay, well, like anything else, right? This is not how I feel. This is just what I would say from the marketplace might say something like this. Well, like anything else, of course, I'm supposed to eat grass-fed meat as a human, or of course, I'm supposed to eat organic produce as a human, right? So I got to go to the Whole Foods, right? Or I got to go to the Trader Joe's, depending on where you are. Okay, fine. But it's going to cost me more, right? Okay, maybe it is, but I want to ask you if it will or it won't, but let's not answer that yet. But even if it did cost you more money to proactively take care of your pet, right, or yourself as a human, well, then you're probably going to stay out of the vet, okay? You're probably not going to be there for sick visits. Cancer, I mean, cancer eats sugar, Dr. Conor Brady, right? I mean, that's what you just said. If you got cancer, you better not be eating these carbs. Can you talk about it well, is it going to be more expensive to feed my dog this way? Can we go there?
Yeah, I'm going to let Anya handle that because she knows about the cost. But one thing I would say in relation to the health costs, Brisbane guide dogs. I was a guide dog trainer for 5 years, and I was over in Australia doing bits and pieces and talking about nutrition, doing seminars. And Brisbane guide dogs give me a call and they say, "Hey, come up to us. We've got 200 dogs that we just changed from dry to raw food. Check out these vet bills." And I was looking at the vet bills, and the vet figure was 82% reduction in vet bills for a charity organization for 200 dogs. Now you can imagine what those vet bills are. That's hundreds
Wow.
of thousands.
Yeah.
So with Brisbane guide dogs, and for a charity, that means more dogs in the streets, more people, helped completely revolutionize. So I fly up and I'm chatting away and I see the data. And if you go to the couriertimes.com.au or .au, which is the Australian Courier Times, is newspaper in Brisbane, there's an interview with Chris Lane and you can see the figure. Just type in 82% Brisbane guide dogs, Courier Times, and you'll see the piece. And she said it was for recurring skin, ear, and gut conditions, which I just showed you the studies for, spoke about the studies for. You'll find them on my website. And also for orthopedic surgery and consults. There was a study of 250 German shepherds that maintained less chronic hip disease, chronic hip dysplasia on raw food. So talk about reduction in veterinary bills. Unfortunately, that is a hard push on the public because it's like telling a smoker, listen, you're going to die younger. It's like, I don't care. I like cigarettes and I'm here for a good time, not a long time. So people can't really see. They can't see the health implications. All they want to know is, unfortunately, as Anya's going to tell us now, is that they just want to know what's the cost right now to me feeding this compared to Weetabix with a cow's toenail, which is a difficult comparison because Anya's trying to promote the best food, high meat, and meat is expensive, and you want to compare it to Weetabix. How am I supposed to do the same thing? So Anya, where are you on the cost bit of it?
Yes, so definitely you are going to save on vet bills and on future illnesses that which you're trying to prevent. Look, sometimes you can't prevent things from happening, you can't prevent cancer comes up, it's hereditary, we don't know answers to everything. But it's definitely less expensive if you're looking at a healthy dog to buy real food than to keep going to the vet all the time for all these other conditions. And a lot of people actually do come in and say, wow, the cost is almost the same because those high-end, wonderful foods that are out there, the kibble, some of them are very, very expensive.
Right.
You've
upgraded already, Anya. If you've already upgraded, right? Like if I care about my animal, like these animal advocates who we hang around with, they're not just like, hey, I got a dog, I feed him out of the box, it is what it is. But if I value me, not just Tommy D, but as a dog owner, a pet owner, if I value and care about this as an individual member of the family, well, and I'm going to upgrade anyway, because I'm not going to use, I used the name before, I won't use the names, but basically, brand X off the shelf, two for whatever it costs, and I'm buying it because it's on sale, versus I'm going to buy the premier brand, the elite brand kibble anyway. Your point is, it's pretty much in lockstep anyway. So if I've already decided to pay the premium because that's the level of care I have for my animal, well, then why not go raw? The price shouldn't hold back, right?
And there's another reason also, and I just have to jump in because I saw this a few weeks ago on your Facebook page, Conor, which I encourage everyone to go check out his Facebook page as well. It's very informative and puts out a lot of current information and interviews. So this was another thing that pissed me off, to be frank. Our cat, one of our cats has diabetes. We had a prescription food for her, Purina, whatever. And long story short, I see on his page an interview with one of the major news channels. I can't remember if it was ABC, NBC, whatever, but they did an investigative report. They took prescription medication, prescription food. You have to get a script from a vet to get it. And they compared it. They went into the labs and they compared the ingredients to regular food. Okay. They found no differences.
No.
So what are you paying more for? You think there's medicine in the food that's going to offset, whatever the ailment is. In this case for us, it was diabetes. But what a sham!
Yeah.
What an absolute marketing sham!
It is. And if that, if the food started off being, let's say, the best piece of meat, by the time that they're done with it, it just, it has absolutely no nutritional value. And then they, the companies sometimes spray whatever they spray on there and add, everything, the vitamins, mineral, whatever they're trying to make it, nutritional, but it's absolutely not. I know that, the medicated foods, people come in all the time. My dog has pancreatitis, and I just, the vet gives them some kind of like a cardboard cereal puffed up something. And, they're discussing, oh, low fat, low fat, low fat. And, especially if you read Dr. Conor Brady's book, it's, there's a combination of low fat and no carb. Well, that's not what this food is, nothing but carbs.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
there's no quality protein there, and
Wow.
dogs don't do better. It's almost like a band-aid in these, foods that the doctors and the vets are recommending.
Yeah, they're made to, people don't realize, like with the protein thing that Tommy was mentioning earlier, like, you look at the coat and how come the coat's so nice? It's because your dogs, if you're feeding cereal-based pet food bought from a vet, your dogs are existing on the minimum amount of protein that they're allowed to include in dry food, that the dog sustains normal blood values over 6 months, the minimum. And people will think, what? But it says 18-20% protein, complete, 100% complete to AFCO standards. AFCO standards are minimum protocol. So when they have 18% protein in for an adult, or 20, or a luxurious 21, and 22% for a pup, that's the legal minimum they can put in there and use the word complete. Any smaller than that, and they can't use the word complete. But in relation to that study there that you brought up earlier on, Valerie, when they looked at it with a chemistry set, the dogs couldn't get 25-30% of the protein out of the puppy food. And these were top brands, veterinary prescribed puppy foods. And the pups couldn't get 30% of the protein out because of things like corn gluten, and which is the leftovers of the corn processing industry, sugar beet pulp after the process of sugar industry. So these are just soy hull. I mean, this is stuff we can't digest, but pop it into pet food, boost up the protein content to this minimum standards. And it's like, so what happens when you feed optimum standards of protein, which is raw dog food? Well, suddenly the body has loads of protein, which is everything in your body. It's not just your muscle and bones, it's your hormones, it's enzymes, it's everything. Suddenly the body has loads of protein. And then after a while it goes, okay, geez, look at the state of your hair. Here, have some nice new skin and hair. And so you've got some spare stuff to go around because the brain and heart have what they need. So like, to feed, the difference between, could you imagine feeding your kids the minimum amount of protein necessary to sustain them for 6 months in a cage and get proper blood values at the end of it? Why would you do that with your kids? Why would you give them the minimum of anything? Optimum is what you want to be giving, but that's not what dry pet food is made to. The same recipe is being made as when they created the food in 1950. They ran out of tin and ran out of horses after the war. And Ralston Purina saw extrusion cooking coming online and said, well, maybe we can make pellets out of cereal and cows' toenails. And then they make that with a George Jetson mineral supplement on top, which is an utterly disproven way of being healthy, by the way. Vitamin and mineral supplements are garbage compared to the real thing. And yet this is the same formula that they've been pushing for the last 70 years, as if the science was done in the 1950s. But like, these are meat eaters. The studies show they're better when they're fed the stuff. It's a complete con. You're ripping yourself off. You're ripping off their health. They are here for a very short time, and you are shortening that time big time by feeding that crap.
So Conor, let me ask you this, because at the end of the day, much of this is we live in a capitalist society, and this is how the way the world is set up. So I think what I would ask is, how do we get them to be on our side? The ones that make this, you say cereal based, and they drop it, I almost George Jetson, pixie dust. How do we get that either that level of support, or we just blow them out of the water? I get, what do you think can we get the big, I was going to say ConAgra, but
Pet food manufacturer.
the Procter and Gamble's, the big names. Do we even bother trying to get their buy-in and make them part of the solution, or do we not really care and we just continue to have this and advocate on behalf of the animals through companies that the canine shop partners with and brings out to the marketplace? What's your opinion there?
I think there's a great line by Morrison from The Doors, and he says that they've got the guns, but we've got the numbers. So you can waste all the time you want going after these guys. But these big companies are just, they don't give a damn what you have to say. Like, but there's no point hating them. There's no point loving them or hating them. As Marge Barlow there says in the US, she says, like, you know, these guys are predators. These companies are predators. And so they don't love you, they don't hate you, but they eat cash and they're going to go after it. And that's what they do. And so when it's eventually unpopular enough to keep promoting the message, they'll stop.
Then they'll
So
stop because they lose enough market share. Then they got to get on the game. But who cares? At the same time, while that's been going on, we've been educating, we've been healing animals.
I think that's the way to go. The people are out there, social media, thank God. There's plenty of people out there that are willing to listen. As Anya has carefully said, when people come in and they want to learn, they're going to learn very quickly from someone like Anya. But if they come in, they're looking for a row, they're not going to learn anything because they think it's social media where you have to be right on social media. Whereas in a shop and it's face to face, you're more likely to listen to the person. So 25% of the UK is now feeding raw dog food, 25%. And there isn't a handful of vets saying that's a good idea. We've 100 people in the Raw Feeding Veterinary Society. I'm one of the only non-vets in it. So, you know, there's hardly any raw feeding vets out there. And yet 25% of the UK, as a population of 90 million people, is feeding raw. And that's without any top-down kind of governance. That's from social media saying, yeah, you know, you can come look at the studies or you can go listen to your vet who's not showing you any studies whatsoever. So, you know, I think
that's so true. That is so true. And I have to say,
Power to the people. That's what I'm feeling. You talked about Jim Morrison. I'm thinking John Lennon, but that's what it is. It's about people. It's about a groundswell. It's about grassroots changing the world.
Yeah, imagine they knew. We
went to our vet with our other cat, Phoebe. She had a UTI, and while we were there, I mean, we were trying out a new vet. I don't think we've secured our permanent vet. Let's put it that way. But I asked, I said, how do you feel about a raw diet? And he immediately went into like, no, salmonella, all this stuff. And I'm just like, we need a different vet. But here's a question I have to ask because I just have to. We talk a lot about dogs. I have to ask the cat question. So Donna from Wisconsin. Oh, sorry. I should have put my reading glasses on. Any tips on how to get my cat to eat raw? He's finicky.
Anya, do you want to have a shot?
Cats are very difficult. They really are difficult to transition. Most of the cats that we have on the raw diet started off because they snuck up to their dog's food and started eating the dog's food. The freaks out. Oh my God, they're eating the dog's raw food. They'd run in. Well, what are we doing here? Because they're a little bit of vegetables, depending on what brand you buy, because we have with and without. So again, we say, yes, cats don't need, it's not going to hurt the cat. It's not going to hurt the cat to eat the dog's raw food if it has a little bit of broccoli in there. Does the cat need it? No, the cat doesn't need it. And then, we can transition that way. That is the easiest way. But otherwise, you have to hold off. It's a little tough love, a little bit of maybe mixing. Again, any raw is better than no raw, in our opinion. So even if someone chooses to change over at all, I don't like things mixed. And again, this is my opinion. This is not any fact, but I don't like it mixed because I'm always worried about if the dog gets sick, everyone always blames the raw, which I feel like it would be the kibble. If something went wrong, it would be the kibble. So I like the meals to be split up. If you want to do one breakfast of kibble and then dinner, raw, then I'd prefer it that way. Body, the body kind of takes care of everything that it needs to do. Like I said, it processes everything different. So people that say you cannot do that because it won't process the kibble and the raw the same way, they're right. But the body also doesn't process the bone the same way as it does the meat, the same way as it does the organ. So no matter what, you're going to have it, different. So I'm not against feeding both. So maybe the cats have to be transitioned a little bit. But
yeah, or this could be a great message for adoption. So in other words, if you have a cat or two cats and they're not transitioning over to raw, then you have to adopt a dog and feed them raw, and then the cats will start eating the dog's food.
Yeah, should have got it done. I think the cats can be very, very picky, they've got a really high, because they're obligate carnivores, cats. Okay, so that means even the dry food companies will tell you they're obligate carnivores. A lot of people try to tell you a dog is an omnivore. I couldn't be bothered getting into it now, but I mean the dog is to a very high degree a meat and bone eater. And yes, they might eat a tiny bit of plant matter here and there, like some wolves, I suppose. But anyway, studies show of truly feral dogs very, very meat eatery. But cats, no one's disputing they're obligate carnivores. It doesn't stop the dry food companies making 50% carbohydrate food for them for some reason, but they're obligate carnivores. But they have an affinity for salt because they're obligate carnivores. So there's huge amounts of salt in dry food. That's why Tommy's puppy, if he was eating dry food, would be weeing all over the place because he drinks so much water when you eat crackers for a living. But when you eat fresh food, the weeing is hardly a thing at all. So toilet trained a raw fed pup is simple. But with a cat, when there's such an affinity for salt, they're addicted to it. So it's like cat crack is in dry food, and trying to get them off that crack is not easy. So with dogs, while there's a very quick changeover because, you know, they're dogs, but with cats, it can be trickier. So what we can do is you can get a nice bit of meat that they like, okay, any meat, beef or turkey mince, whatever, put it on the pan and cook it. So heat it at a high temperature, and you get that browning of the meat. It's called a Maillard reaction. Don't forget, the cat's only used to eating cooked products until now. He's never seen raw meat before. If he's an indoor cat, if he's an outdoor cats will jump like that because they eat mice and birds. So they'd have no problem eating meat. But indoor cats, they've never seen raw meat before. So, you know, the first time you order calamari, you don't want to see a squid flopping around your plate. So you need to eat them onto it. So we actually cook a bit of meat and we salt it, good quality salt on cooked meat. Even vegans would struggle to say no to that. And then you mix that really tasty cooked salted meat and you mix it into the food, and the cat's going, what's this bit of stuff? And they will eat that, absolutely, the tiniest bit, and you build really, really slowly, and then you cook less and salt less until after 10, 20 days, the cat is now eating whatever meat you wanted to start off on. So people do it with tuna. They start off with a tiny bit of tuna, a bit of broth. So you can just actually put a bit of meat in a cup and put hot water in with the meat, and you make essentially like a gravy out of it. And so you're just scenting the kibble with the gravy.
Meat smoothie.
A meat smoothie, lovely. and you put that over the kibble, anything to slowly move them over, increase the meat content of your kibble, get better quality kibble, and you're slowly but surely over 10, 20 days, you're eking them along. I'd listen to some cat experts as well. There's a lot of people out there talking raw feeding cats, fresh feeding cats. I do a show on Tuesday nights called Raw Pet Medics, and once a month it's about cats. So you can kind of check that out. The cat one is on Fridays, and they've got them all up there still. You can look at how to transition them and various sicknesses and whatnot in cats. Cats are a different animal though. They are, I'm learning. I kind of thought, just give them the raw dog food. And now people are saying, oh, well, there's a few differences. So I would be I'm more blasé. I used to be this really important, not important. I used to be really hooked on like percentages and, but as time goes on, you get more and more flippant. I've got kids here. I haven't a clue what their calcium RDA is. I don't know where they get their calcium from because they don't drink milk. And it's like I give them a bit here and there, and they eat meat. My God, I was a vegetarian for 12 years till they came along. So like I'm just muddling my way through, but nobody told me what to do, or her butt would fall off for the want of manganese. I haven't a clue where she's getting it from. I'm just arguing with her daily to eat her greens and hoping that that's enough. And that's the same with your dog. It's just a meatier food pie. That's all it is. It's very simple.
So I got to call out a couple of things. I just want your website. We got to call out your website again. Dogsfirst.ie, as in Ireland, right? Is that why that is? Conor? Yep. So I'm seeing all sorts of cool things on the website, and I just want to call out some of them. I don't know. You mentioned these shows. How do we follow those shows? Is it
that's a Facebook thing. So it's on Facebook. Raw Pet Medics is the show on Facebook. We do it every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. our time, which is, I don't know, the hours are going forwards and backwards and all over the place, but it's around 2 or 3 New York time.
It's like what? It's like when the mechanics or the magnets in the compass. What time is it? I don't know. Why is that still going on? Why are we changing hours all the time? I've missed various appointments because of this. Here's the thing I want to ask you too, is I'm noticing on your website, because I got it on my other screen, you have these courses, canine allergy course, you have a course on the role of nutrition, on the behavior of our dogs, what do dogs eat, really, really special stuff. Do you want to call out a course or something like that people should plug into?
Well, it depends on what level of nerd you're at. I was trying to put nerd levels on those courses.
Nerd level with the little nerd with the glasses. It shows. Yeah. I'll share this while you keep talking. I'm going to share the site again.
I do need to put out a whole introduction to raw type idea. I'm also doing a course for shops and staff and that kind of stuff. So that's what there. But the cancer diet one, the complete myth. The complete myth is about people that believe in AFGO. I was trying to target vets with that one, but they don't watch it. You put the evidence together and they don't read it. But the whole idea that you need to feed complete food is just an utter nonsense. If you saw what AFCO was, this is the governing body for dry food. It's the vampire's garden, the blood bank. But that ends with the whole DCM scandal recently, where the FDA got involved, as the FDA do, and they got involved with this FDA scandal to repress the growth of natural pet food, and that's just been Mars ended up buying grain-free pet food. When you ask how do we approach the conglomerates, Mars have just bought the biggest natural pet food company in the world, Champion Pet Foods. They make Origin. So, they did that. And then a month later, the FDA said, actually, natural pet food isn't a problem. That one there is probably the most popular, the canine allergy one. That's for dogs with reseg. So it's recurring skin, ear, and gut conditions. So that is going to put my kids through college, because I just bang that out cheap. We're doing consults at the moment, but like, you have to spend a couple of hours with people to get these dogs right. By the time they come to you, the person says, look, I've just been with 4 vets and he's on 4 different types of non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, and you're like, oh my God, the dog is in bits.
How much is that course?
That course is $40.
Oh, I thought you were going to say 400. I still would have.
No,
I'm taking that course, right, Anya? I'm going to take.
Actually, there you go. Look, it's $35. Oh my God, I'm too cheap.
You are underpriced. You have to raise price.
Going up. No, but listen, we get these consults, and I'm training up 2 other people to take the consults from me, because I can't keep doing them. They're good, they're well paid, I have to say. But like with the courses, the idea is that millions of dogs have this issue, and yet they're getting poor information online. It's all very, very confusing for them. So I'm just going to bang it out, and then I give them a chunk of the book that explains why allergies are behind all the recurring skin, itch, ear, and gut conditions that dogs are suffering. I mean, my God, it's such a simple solution. Anya will have the solution. The solution is get them onto a single product.
Right. Isn't it what it is, though? It's by changing one out for the other. Because basically, I'm just going to say this. You don't have to. Nobody on the show is saying this, but I am. You're basically poisoning your animals if you don't do it the right way, right? So by putting this crap into the animal, you're going to get crap results. By putting McDonald's and Burger King, now I'm in big trouble, but because I eat those myself. But by putting those into our body, what can we expect but poor results and poor performance, because we're not putting in good nutrition, right? So I want to ask you this, because this is exciting to me from a course perspective, is do you offer or will you offer certain certifications, maybe like if somebody owns a franchise of canine shops sort of thing, like where the folks could be certified under Dr. Brady's protocol and Dr. Brady's work? Because then I think, and we're all big on certifications and how it elevates us, and right, I'm an expert in this, I'm an expert in that, right? And now I have the piece of paper to show you, look, I got the piece of paper.
Yeah, I was bouncing off the idea. Look, I kind of think there's just too much technical stuff getting into this. People need to use there's people out there with animal diet formulators and an Excel spreadsheet, and it's like nobody eats like that. It's like you're not going to sit down with an Excel spreadsheet and feed your kids and freak out. So I with this cert stuff, I'm not a certifying body. I would reach out to I have reached out to the American veterinary groups, where you can get continuing veterinary education points, so the vets get rewarded for watching it. That's kind of hard when you're pushing an anti kind of they're on
the other side. It's like that's the opposite. They're
the opposite. I'm trying to keep pets out of the vets, and that's not good business. And I'm trying to say, look, flea treatments for dogs with no fleas, worm treatments for dogs with no worms, annual vaccinations for already vaccinated dogs. Give me a break. So all that information is constantly being pushed to me. So I'm not exactly in their good books. So look, I don't know about certs, but there is a couple of people doing really, really good online courses. I'm nothing to do with this one, but iPet is one in the UK. And that is a very big, difficult course. And I know 2 people that are working with me now that have come out of that course, and they are hot shit. And so a lot of the courses I'm looking at, they're so off. All they've done is they've seen what's working in other people's pages, and they've just chunked it together and call themselves a cert, and the person gets a piece of paper at the end, and sure, it's useless. But you want something that keeps you up at night and stresses you out, and you wake up with your hair on your pillow. That's iPet. iPet is as close to a degree course that I could imagine. Hard to get into, hard to complete, 2 years long. But at the end of it, if you talk about how do I get kind of properly educated in this, I like iPet. And so look, that's as close to one of the courses that's out there. What they need is a master's in canine nutrition, and that's not available anywhere. You've got these veterinary nutritionists that are coming out. There's only 100 of them in the world, and they all recommend dry food. And it's like, wow, if you're going to the Ronald McDonald's, university of nutrition, it turns out that you
Right.
come out recommending McDonald's, you know, so
I
it's,
want to say I love you, Connor. I really do. I just find that you're so genuine and sincere. I want to add in a quick tip, and then I want to let you guys wrap it up however you want. But I just have to say this because for years now, since 2019, I have a Google alert on pet food recalls. And I'm really speaking to the pet parents who either they're reluctant to do the raw diet, or there are some people who just have to, in their minds, their budget only can allow for the cheapest, whatever they can find that's on sale. And I understand that too, because they don't want to surrender their animals, so they have to feed them something. But I'm urging everyone to please do the same. Create a Google alert. It takes about 10 seconds. Pet food recalls. Every single year, there are pet food recalls. We just saw two about 2 weeks ago from Purina. Sometimes they're voluntary pet food recalls, and sometimes they're not. But what is scary, we've seen it, Sport Mix, Hills, Pets, Blue Buffalo, all of the major pet brands, they're on there. Whether it's from 2019, 2020, whatever, there's 10 to 20 pet food recalls on average a year. So,
You know,
that's just it.
it was even just starting this business, it was kind of scary opening up a store where, I don't have clothes up and down, dog clothes and dog
Yeah.
beds and dog toys everywhere. I don't have any canned foods like that, or kibble, bags of kibble. So, at first we were scared, well, how is this going to work? Like, people don't know that much about this. But again, because they are doing better and dogs are doing better, it's word of mouth is just the best, the best sales pitch ever. I don't have to do much. It speaks for itself. And I think that's a really big deal. And we do have a lot of vets that shop with us, and we have veterinary surgeons actually that shop with us. So
Good.
that feels wonderful, knowing that they trust me. I also have a vet that tries everything, and everything she was taught, and then when it doesn't work, then she says, go see Anya at the canine shop. I think that might help. And
Wow, that's great.
cool.
I want to say one of my favorite moments when I was visiting and I was in the Massapequa store. This just warms my heart. I saw a lot of success stories, people coming in talking about how much better the coats are and the skins and the hot spots. There was one dog, it was her 15th birthday. She came in with a little pink tiara thing, and she was walking around, and they were giving her birthday treats, and she was going up on her hind legs. And anyway, a month before, according to the mom, she could barely stand up and walk. So here she is on her 15th birthday, wagging her tail, walking around, going up on her hind laurels to get treats. It was so heartwarming. And I'm like, we are so doing the right thing. Like, I love it. I love you guys. I love everything about this.
Thank you. The joints and the supplements, for the joints and the fresh food. We try to carry very, very high-end products, which this is exactly what we see.
Yeah.
So
Good.
shout out to sorry, Connor, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say good in, good out. Even with the joint supplements, I had to get a knee operation 3 times. It took me out of football. And on the 3rd time walking out, the guy says, so I'm trying to do the rehab, physio, I'm doing, sports, everything right, I thought. But at 35, the time was up, and he said, okay, that's enough of football. And he goes, by the way, what are you eating? And I said, oh, listen, I do nutrition. I know I have that covered. And he goes, just what do you eat just day to day? And he goes, you're not vegetarian, are you? And I went, I am. And he goes, where'd you get all your glucosamine and chondroitin from? And I'm like, oh my God. And it was so embarrassing. Like, I've been lecturing on this for dogs. I know exactly what to do. And it's like, well, I never gave my body the chance. So I'm eating this vegetarian diet free of glucosamine, chondroitin, collagen, hyaluronic acid, glucagon, glutathione, these things that I know are critical for building joints. It's what joint material is. So dry food, doesn't have any of that in it. And so we get these pups at 3 weeks, they come off mum, and they go on to a food that is completely free of the building blocks for building healthy joints. So you're wondering why Brisbane guide dogs saw such a change in joints. It's because suddenly all this material is being fed to them every day. So people don't need to think about glucosamine and chondroitin and whatnot. When these sugars when you're feeding 10% bone to your dog, Why do you need to add more bone in? You don't. So suddenly this need, like raw food is just so much more complicated than vitamins and minerals and proteins and carbs. It's such a, like, it's like the way we looked at food 400 or 500 years ago when people were dying of scurvy on the boat.
Vibes.
Trips, you know, it's
Yeah.
like it is so impossibly complicated. Like antioxidants aren't something you take in a pill when you're sick. Antioxidants are something you're supposed to be taking every single day to keep you healthy. It's not coenzyme Q10 when you're sick. It's coenzyme Q10. Even CBD in hemp and whatnot, that comes from a lot of different plants. You have a whole endocannabinoid system looking for CBD. It's a critical nutrient in your diet. And we've taken it out completely because, you know, hemp and cannabis is terrible. You're not allowed to eat stuff that grows out of the ground. And so, but like these nutrients are critical. You're supposed to be eating them every single day. You can't cut out glucosamine and chondroitin and then your Labrador's walking like a coffee table at 8 years old. And what do they do then? Sell you ground up cartilage in a capsule. Don't give them raw meaty bones though. Don't give them actual cartilage. You know, it's such a ruse to sell more and more crap. Whereas you should be feeding that stuff every single day, and then you'll avoid that issue later on in life. And I'm telling you, you don't want these issues at 7 or 8 years of life, because they will milk you for another 7 or 8 years until the dog's gone. If he gets that long, particularly on some of the more powerful meds that are out there, because these meds do not go through the safety protocols we would like to think they do. As we're quickly realizing, hardly any meds seem to do that. But the pet meds is a very, don't talk about the war. Pet meds are a complete cowboy field, you know, and so you need people like Anya selling those products, because they're nerds and they're sitting at home reading about pet products every single day, and so they filter you from the crap. So when you walk in and the store is not selling crap, you know that she's done her research, and it saves you all the stress. And it's just like, just tell me what to feed, and then you buy, you know, the medium priced version of that, add in your own bits, and you cross your fingers as you do the kids, and you'll be fine. Don't be stressing, you know. So anyway, a lot of fear.
So much here. I mean, we could just, you were really fired up there. I wanted to keep you going for another half hour.
Yeah.
Anya, shout out to Canine. If it's okay with you, Dr. Brady, we'd love to have you come back on the show at some point in the future. I want you to shout out all your stuff in a second. Anya, shout out to the locations here on Long Island. Talk about Canine Shop before we go.
Well, we have one Massapequa and Bohemia and Lynbrook. With a couple of others opening up on Northport, and then yours, which is exciting. Yes, cool. we're definitely here to help. I feel like this happens so fast. I have a lot of customers that were upset because they were at work. This is like in the beginning of their work day. So they say they're going to come on and watch. But I feel like if we have a whole bunch of questions, you know, for us to come in, like specific questions, that would be wonderful to have you back on to answer them.
That'd be great. Dr. Brady, did you have fun, sir?
Absolutely. I love this. You know, I can't do enough of this sort of stuff. I just love it. I know I'm reaching a new audience and stuff, and it's great to meet people. And I can't believe you've got that many shops open already. That's brilliant. Good news for us. You know, that's what you want to hear. Yeah. So the good message is getting out. That's how it gets out. Forget the top down. They'll change when it's profitable to change, you know. And so this is great news.
Shout out your stuff. You got the book. Shout out the website, the book, the whole thing.
The website is everything. You'll go onto the website. It's not as accurate as it should be, but the book is Feeding Dogs. You'll get that on Amazon. Top rated canine nutrition manual on Amazon.com. I'm delighted about that. But so it's great, it's doing grand, and then we do consults and we do courses and all sorts of stuff on the website. Slowly making my way, do supplements and that kind of stuff. So look, you'll find that on the website. I need to get better at that end of things, because I've just been talking for 10 years, and people are like, you know, my wife's kind of saying, Conor, I'm gonna pay for the mortgage. So I need to excuse the language. But I need to start focusing on what I'm doing now. But so a few more courses and whatnot. Look, go on there. The behavior course is probably the most popular at the moment. If people are interested in why top behaviors are seeing the dog turns inside out, 20 minutes after the junk food is brought out at a kid's party and your kids are going bananas, and you think you're going to hand them their homework and do it then, people are trying to train mad hyperactive dogs being fed candy. And it's like, get them onto real food full of bioactive compounds and get the foundation right, and then come back and try and talk to the dog. These poor dogs hopping off the ones, you know?
Because they're bonkers, because you give them all that sugar, they're fired up, they're juiced up, and then you want them to listen to commands. I know that I have 4 children, so I understand that. Val, leave us with something before I have a couple things I want to say. Valerie, what else you got for us?
I just want to mention our website, because we do have an event coming up June 13th, and it's
I'm so sorry to cut you off. I have to dash now and pick up my kid.
Thank you. I'll be taking your
sign off.
Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon, guys. Thank you.
All
Bye
right,
bye.
have a good
Thank
one.
you.
Yeah, Val.
www.pal, P-A-L -not_show.com. So let's go there.
I just shared that on Facebook. Basically, it's pal-show.com. Don't have to say, it doesn't have to be pal-no hyphen. You don't have to say all those things. You don't have to type all those things. It's
I
just,
like saying it because a lot
No,
of
no,
times
I mean-
people
I
do
mean,
the
when someone-
underscore.
but when they're looking for it, I don't want them to put in pal
Oh,
dash
yeah.
and then write the
Oh.
word no hyphen and then show, because then they're going to be totally lost. Pal-show.com, pal-show.com, professionals and animal lovers show. I did have a quick joke I wanted to say for the doctor, but he'll have to watch that in the recording. He mentioned scurvy. My cousin Vinny used to drink Corona beers with a lot of limes, and we used to say the one thing about that kid is he's never going to get scurvy. Because if you don't know the story, on the ships back in the old days, they would get scurvy and they started bringing limes on the boats, lemons and limes with them, and then they no longer got scurvy because you need that vitamin C. Your body needs what it needs. It needs the nutrition. You got to give it what it needs. And it's not about a reaction. It's about being proactive and giving the body what it needs. In his total commitment to nonviolence, Gandhi always included the animals by stating the greatness of a nation and its moral progress can be judged by the way its animals are treated. Make it a great day. Your pals, Tommy and Val. Thanks, Anya.
Thank you, Anya. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.